Hello my loving viewers, again we are from RJCSK in front of you with one more live session. Today I Supriya standing before you with one more topic, that is schizophrenia. As I have already told you in promo that it is going to be helpful for BSc and JNM students. But before starting my live session, I would like to tell you, please do follow and subscribe our channel so that it will be beneficial for you also, so that you can get more live sessions in our channel. And the channel name is rjcsk.edu. So please do follow and subscribe. Now we will start with our live session and the topic is schizophrenia. First we will discuss about the introduction of schizophrenia. So let's have a look on the introduction. So the introduction says, the word schizophrenia was coined by the Swiss psychiatrist Eugen Bleuler in 1908, and he coined that word from a Greek word that is known as schizo, and which means split, and phren means mind. So basically the term schizophrenia has derived from the Greek word schizo and mind. Okay, next we will see the definition of schizophrenia. So definition says schizophrenia is a psychotic condition characterized by a disturbance in thinking, emotion, volition and faculties in the presence of clear consciousness, which usually leads to social withdrawal. So the definition says that schizophrenia, it is a psychological disorder. What it affects actually in the clear state of consciousness, our thinking, our volitions, our impulses get altered, which leads us from the socially withdrawn. Okay, next slide is epidemiology. Now we will see about the epidemiology of schizophrenia. So it is the most common of all psychiatric disorders and it is prevalent in all culture across the world. So what it says, if you will see all the psychological disorders, what you will get that schizophrenia is the most common psychiatric disorder among all. And basically in schizophrenia also you will get the paranoid schizophrenia, which is so common in all the psychiatric disorders. Next is 15% of the new admissions, whatever the new admissions are coming in a mental hospital or in mental asylums, in that 15% of patients you will see those who are suffering from schizophrenia. And then schizophrenic patients occupy 50% of all the mental hospital beds. As I have already told you that schizophrenia is very common occurring disorder, so 50% of the beds are occupied with the schizophrenia only. And about 3 to 4 of per 1,000 communities suffer from schizophrenia. Means in a community, if they have 1,000 of people, then in that 1,000 people, 3 or 4 people are commonly suffering from schizophrenia. Next. Okay, next we will see the ICD-10 classification. Okay viewers, so I would like to tell you that this ICD classification is very important classification. If you are learning psychiatric, if you are learning schizophrenia, then it is very necessary for you to by heart this ICD-10 classification. So this classification says that from F20 to F29 you will get all the schizophrenia, schizotypal and delusional disorders. And then coming in schizophrenia, it is described from F20 to F21. So the first one is F20, that is schizophrenia. Then the subtypes of schizophrenia is mentioned here. For example, paranoid schizophrenia, hebephrenic schizophrenia, catatonic schizophrenia, undifferent schizophrenia, post-schizotypal schizophrenia, residual schizophrenia and simple schizophrenia. So basically from schizophrenia till simple schizophrenia, all the subtypes of schizophrenia. And next is schizotypal disorder. So this is the F20 classification, or we can say ICD classification of psychiatric disorder, that is very necessary for all the psychiatric students. Okay, next we will see the etiology of schizophrenia. So this etiology is basically characterized in few points. So first we will see the biological theories, means whatever the functioning altered in our body, because of that sometimes schizophrenia may develop. So we will see according to that. First we will see about the biochemical theories. In biochemical theories, the first factor is dopamine. What happens actually when the dopamine neuronal activities increases in our brain, then it affects schizophrenia. Now I will tell you how dopamine is related with schizophrenia. Actually dopamine is completely related with the reinforcement of behavior in our body. Whatever we behave, how we behave, that reinforcement is occurring because of dopamine only. So in our brain, when the dopamine neuronal activities get increased, that can cause schizophrenia. So that's why it is a dopamine hypothesis. Okay, next we will see other biochemical hypothesis in this. Abnormalities of neurotransmitters, norepinephrine, serotonin, acetylcholine, gamma aminobutyric acid, that is GABA. Okay, as you know, you might have studied in MSN already that, or in anatomy also, that what is the function of neurotransmitters. So basically neurotransmitters, what they do, they carry the impulses from one neuron to another neuron. So when this connection get altered due to any brain accident or due to any brain injury, when this connection get alters, it may cause schizophrenia later. Next we will see abnormalities in the neuroregulators. Okay, neuroregulators, what they do actually, neuroregulator, the main function of neuroregulator is that they govern our behavior and they direct our behavior. So neuroregulator are basically directly proportional or directly related with our behavior. They direct and they govern our behavior. So when there is any kind of alteration in the neuroregulator, it directly affects our behavior. And we have already studied in schizophrenia that our thinking, our behavior, our actions get altered. So that is how you can correlate the abnormalities in neuroregulators with the occurrence of schizophrenia. Okay, next is perinatal risk factors. In perinatal risk factor, basically it is directly connected with when the baby is in the womb of mother, then at that time when there is any occurrence so that the baby can get schizophrenia, so it is those factors. The first one is maternal influenza. Okay, now I will tell you how maternal influenza is directly connected with the schizophrenia. You will think how it is connected, so I'll clear your doubt. Actually maternal influenza, in influenza, the influenza virus, it actually create the hallucinogens alterations. What actually hallucinogens are the adverse psychiatric drug. So these psychotic drug, they do alterations in our clear state of consciousness. Because of that, the maternal influenza can cause any kind of damage to the baby, I mean the psychotic damage to the baby. Next we will say birth during late winters. Okay, so basically birth during late winters, it is just a hypothesis, it is just a it has already been given by a psychologist. Okay, what happens in actually late winters, there is a less exposure of sunlight, means the sunlight does not reach properly, so in late winters, so that is why the baby of late winters, they have a lack of vitamin D, they have somewhat vitamin D deficiency, which leads to the decreasement in the development of their brain. So that's why they also get schizophrenia easily. Okay, next is complication of pregnancy, particularly during labor and delivery. So when the woman is labor or the mother is in labor time, if there is any kind of injury occurs, if there is any kind of brain injury occurs at that time, so at that time also brain functions may get altered and the baby may get schizophrenia. Okay, next etiology is neurostructural theories. Neurostructural theories means what are all the structural formations in our brain, if they get altered somehow, then they can also develop schizophrenia. So in that we will study first the prefrontal cortex and limbic cortex may never fully develop in the brains of person with schizophrenia. It means the person who are already suffering from schizophrenia, their prefrontal cortex and limbic cortex may get altered. I will tell you how. When the person's limbic cortex is not developed, it directly causes some alterations in the memory, like the person is not able to hold his or her memory. And prefrontal cortex is directly related to the cognitive thinking of the individual. So when both the prefrontal cortex and limbic cortex get altered, then person may ultimately get schizophrenia. Next is CT and MRI studies of brain structure shows decreased brain volume, large lateral and third ventricles, atrophy in the frontal lobe, cerebrum and limbic structure. As you are already seeing in the PPT that if a person is of schizophrenia, these symptoms might occur in the CT or MRI. Okay, next we will see genetic theory. In genetic theory, the first common cause of schizophrenia is consanguineous marriages. Have you heard about consanguineous marriages? Consanguineous marriages is basically when two persons get married in their family itself. Like if siblings get married to each other, then that marriage pattern is known as consanguineous marriage. What actually happens in consanguineous marriage? For example, they are following the same genes. Okay, so some recessive gene may get dominate when they both get married and when their children will be born. So that rare gene may get dominating in that particular individual. So that is how they can develop schizophrenia. And then if the twins are identical, then 50% chances in both of them. If the twins are fragmental twins means when the egg got developed by two kind of sperms. So that is fragmental twins. So in case of fragmental twins, 15% chances are there to develop schizophrenia. And then brother sister, like if my brother is there, then we have only 10% of chance to get schizophrenia, as like one parent affected. If in mother and father only one parent or both of them only one parent is affected, then the child, there are 15% of chances that the child may get schizophrenia. Then agar both of the parents are affected, like mother and father both are affected, then 35% are there that they can develop schizophrenia in further conditions. And if we talk about the second degree relatives here refers like me and my uncle or my auntie or anyone, means who are not directly connected, like me, my mother and father. So apart from that, if there is any second degree relative, so if they are suffering from schizophrenia, then the individual may have 2 or 3% chances of getting schizophrenia. And then general population only 1%. Okay, next we will see about the psychodynamic theories. Psychodynamics theory we talk about, then there is a theory of Sigmund Freud, that is psychosexual theory. In that theory, Sigmund Freud has said that if there is any regression in the psychosexual theory, then the child which may further develop poor ego boundaries, means when the child will get elder or when the child will grow up, that child will develop very poor ego boundaries, love-hate relationships, and arrested psychosexual development can be seen in that particular individual. Okay, next we will see the family theories. In family theories, what actually we used to say, if the mother of the child is very overprotective or the mother shows a very kind of cold nature, so in that kind of relationship make the child kind of very aggressive, or we can say the child becomes very active, or in sometimes the child get disturbed also because of the overprotectiveness of the mother. Sometimes the mother does not allow the child to go outside or does not allow the child to talk about himself or herself. In that condition, the child may develop his or her feelings inside him, or somewhat unspoken thoughts are inside the mind of child. So in that condition also the individual may get schizophrenia. And then dysfunctional family system. In dysfunctional family system, like if the mother and father, they both are there, but they both are not able to carry on the care of that particular child, hostility between parents can lead to schizophrenic daughter. Means if the relationship of mother and father are not good, they are quarreling with each other, they are fighting with each other, they are not sharing their opinions, there are some conflicts in mother and father, so they later on they can develop a schizophrenic daughter. Next is double-blind communication. In double-blind communication, parents convey 2 or more conflicting or incompatible messages at the same time. Means if parents are saying something that you have to do, and the very next moment they said, no, you cannot do this thing right now. So when they say 2 things, just the opposite things at same time, so the child may get confusion, may get conflicts, which may develop schizophrenia later. Okay, next is social factors. In social factors, what we see when there is a society which is kind of disorganized. So in disorganized society, the people of that society may develop schizophrenia. And the person who are having low economic classes, the people of low economic classes, they also can build schizophrenia. Why it is because the person who are from low socioeconomic, they are actually poor. They don't have that proper earning to earn their life, to complete out their desires, to fulfill their wishes. So the thoughts and the wishes remain inside them, which they cannot speak out, and hence they develop this kind of suppressed feelings, at that later may develop schizophrenia. Okay, next is psychodynamic theory. In which study we will study about stress vulnerability model. Stress vulnerability, what it says, that if I am already having any kind of predisposition of any psychotic disorder, or I am already having any predispositions of schizophrenia only. So when we get any kind of stresses, when we get any kind of stimulations that affect our mental condition, in that condition we may develop a serious mental disorder. So here it says, according to this model, people with a predisposition to schizophrenia may avoid serious mental disorders if they are protected from stresses of life. It means if the individual is already having a predisposition of schizophrenia, then for him it is very necessary to avoid all the stresses of life. Other than that, if he or she will come in contact of stress, then the individual may get schizophrenia. Okay, next slide we will see the model of stress vulnerability model. As here you can see in this picture, I would like to make you understand that if we are already having predisposition of schizophrenia, and then any other stress, if it comes in our life, like family problem or economic issues, if this kind of issues come in our life, then easily the individual may able to get or develop schizophrenia. Next. Okay, next is social factors. So social factors, I have already told you that in disorganized society, people may easily get schizophrenia, and people of low socioeconomic status, they also can get schizophrenia very easily. Next please. Okay, so now we have studied about the etiology. Now we will study about the clinical features of the schizophrenia. So first we will start clinical features one by one. First we will study clinical features which is given by Eugene Bleuler. Okay, so Eugene Bleuler has tried to describe the schizophrenia in his 4 A's. 4 A's, that is ambivalence, associative looseness, affective disturbance and autistic thinking. Now I will make you understand all these 4 A's one by one. So first is, previous slide please. First is ambivalence. In ambivalence, actually, when the person is saying two opposite thoughts at the same time, like if she wants to do or if she don't want to do, both the thoughts coming at the same time, then that phenomena is known as ambivalence. Associative looseness means in a statement or in a communication, if I am committing any two statements which are completely irrelatable from each other, that is known as, there is no connection in both the statements, that is known as associative looseness. And affective disturbance, in affective disturbance the individual is not able to express his or her emotions, completely blunt emotions the individual shows. In autistic thinking actually the inner thoughts of individuals are completely different from the individual's reality. I will give you an example for that. Suppose if there is a traffic light, okay, the individual is in a traffic, and if the red traffic light appears, so basically red traffic light, what it shows, that it is time to stop. But if any kind of schizophrenic patient will be there, what he thinks, means I am just giving example, what he thinks that now it has time of team to appear, it's a red light now, the team might be coming, like that he or she may build any kind of illogical thoughts within the individual. Next. Okay, next, the Schindler's first rank symptoms. As I have already told you that the symptoms of schizophrenia has already been described by various psychologists. So next symptoms that we are going to study, that is Schindler's first rank of schizophrenia. In Schindler's first rank, we will study about some of the symptoms. For example, thought echo. Thought echo means when the individual thinks that his thoughts are spoken aloud in the surrounding. That is known as thought echo. For example, if I am thinking that I need to go for lunch at this time, so my thoughts are, I will think that my thoughts are spoken aloud in the surrounding. That term is known as thought echo. Next is hallucinatory voice. You all are familiar with hallucinatory voice, like any false perception. The voice is not present, then too we are feeling that voice, then too we are hearing that voice. That is known as hallucinatory voice. So in hallucinatory voice, there are two conditions in which Shenders has explained. First is hallucinatory voice in form of a statement and reply. For example, if someone is commanding the individual, or if someone is giving any reply to the individual, so that is hallucinatory voice in form of statement. But when there is any kind of hallucinatory voice that is commenting on the individual's actions or individual's acts, so that is hallucinatory voice in form of commentary. Next is thought withdrawal, thought insertion and thought broadcasting. Actually these three terms are basically related with our thoughts. In thought broadcasting, what happened, we think that our thoughts had been broadcasted in the environment. Our thoughts had been known by everyone at this time. So that is known as thought broadcasting. In thought insertion, we think that someone is putting their thought in ourselves, and in thought withdrawal, we think that our thoughts has been taken by someone else, or our thoughts had been removed by someone else. Next. Okay, next symptoms are somatic passivity. In somatic passivity, the individual thinks that some external forces are influencing on the body of individuals. That is termed as somatic passivity. And next, made volitions, made impulses and made feelings. In made volitions, the individual thinks that some external stimuli is forcing the individual to do something, or some external stimuli forcing the individual to think another thoughts, or in made impulses, the individual think that some external stimuli is putting any kind of external impulses on the individual, which is actually not present. These are just the altered thoughts of particular patient or individual. Next is delusional perception. In delusional perception, delusion, you all know that the means of delusion is false belief. So actually, what is delusional perception? The real perception which is altered by the individual, that is known as delusional perception. Next. Okay, now we will see about the positive and negative symptoms of schizophrenia. See, there has been a differentiation between positive and negative schizophrenia, because there are lots and lots of symptoms of schizophrenia is given in the syllabus. So I would like to differentiate between positive and negative schizophrenia. Hope you all will also understand. So in positive schizophrenia, delusions are there. Delusion, I have already told you, the false belief or the false perception. Then hallucination, as I have already told you, something which is not in the surrounding or something which is not present, that then too we are feeling that. So that is known as hallucination. In hallucination, again it is subdivided in auditory hallucination, in visual hallucination, tactile hallucination. So these are all the kinds of hallucination that can be gone in the individual's mind. Okay, next is excitement or agitation. So basically, sometimes the patient of schizophrenia may develop some kind of grandiosity, some kind of delusionals. So in that they think they are the greater one, they are the bigger one, there is no one in their comparison. So in that conditions they get excited, they get somewhat agitated. So we can see also the symptom of excitement and agitation. Next is hostility and aggressive behavior. So basically the patients of schizophrenia, they do not build any kind of relations with the other members, or if we can see, if you visit in a mental hospital, you will see the schizophrenic patient, they do not get relation with the other schizophrenic patient, like they do not build a relationship like us, we normal people. Okay, next is suspiciousness and ideas of reference. Suspiciousness means they always think that someone is trying to attack them, someone is trying to spite them. So this kind of suspicions can occur in the mind of schizophrenic patients. Next is possible suicidal tendencies. So basically the serious and very chronic patient of schizophrenia, they may develop this kind of symptoms that they try to commit suicide. So possible tendencies of suicides can be seen in the patients of schizophrenia. Next, now we will see about the negative symptoms of schizophrenia. Now previously I have already told you about the positive symptoms. We'll just have a look on negative symptoms also. So negative symptom is affective or flattening or blunting thoughts. Means when the patient is not clearly able to present his thoughts or emotions, that is known as blunted affect or affective thoughts. Next is avolition or apathy. Avolition or apathy means, apathy is a condition in which the person is not able to understand the expressions or able to understand the problems of others. In that condition, the term is known as apathy. Next is attentional impairment. Attentional impairment means the person is not able to pay proper attention on any kind of object or event. And anhedonia is basically, it is the decrease in feeling of pleasure. When the person is not able to feel pleasure, then that condition is known as anhedonia. And alogia is when there is any kind of decrease in speech productivity. Okay, next we will study about the thought and speech disorders. Basically, these are the signs and symptoms of schizophrenia only, but we have categorized in them. Like first we studied about the 4 A's, then we studied about the positive and negative symptoms, then we studied about the Schindler's ranks symptoms. Now, like that only they are going in sequence. So this is thought and speech disorder. In these we can also get some symptoms. For example, the first is perseverance. Perseverance means any kind of activity that is repeatedly done by the individual. Next is verbigeration. Verbigeration is any word or any phrase that is repeatedly done by the patient or individual. Echolalia is the condition in which patient repeat word that is actually a kind of illogical words, and it is repeatedly using by the patient. Next is echopraxia. Echopraxia means when the patient is doing any kind of action again and again. Echolalia and echopraxia you might get confused, but always remember echolalia is directly related from the words and echopraxia is related by the actions. Then concreteness when the person shows his rigid personality, that is known as concreteness. And ambivalence I have already told you, when the person says two opposite things at the same time, that is known as ambivalence. And then impaired abstraction means when the patient's abstract thinking get impaired or altered, that is known as impaired abstractions. Okay, next we will see the disorders of perception. Next symptom we will see hallucination. Hallucination, in the starting only I have told you about hallucination. In hallucination we see some different kind of hallucination like auditory, visual, tactile, gustatory and olfactory. All hallucination I will explain in detail. In auditory hallucination, when the person hears something which is not actually present in the environment, which is not actually present in the surrounding, but that particular individual hears that someone is saying something to him, so that hallucination is known as auditory hallucination. Next, if we will talk about visual hallucination, in visual hallucination the patient sees some things, patient watch some things which is not present in the surrounding. Like if I say my grandmother is standing right in front of me or beside me, so actually my grandmother is not present in surrounding, but I am thinking that my grandmother is with me, so that is kind of visual hallucination. Next is tactile hallucination. In tactile hallucination, we always feel that someone is touching us, someone is putting any kind of somatic passivity on us, or so these kind of in which the person think that some external stimuli is touching the person, so that term is known as tactile hallucination. Next is gustatory hallucination. In gustatory hallucination, patient feels different kind of smells which are actually not present in the surrounding, but the patient feels those smells, so that is known as gustatory hallucinations. Next is I would like to correct myself. In gustatory hallucinations, when the person tastes different kind of things which is actually not present physically, it is not present, but the individual can taste. For example, if I bought some food, if I cook some food for an individual who is already schizophrenic, I'll bring that food in front of him and the patient will say that instead of salty, the patient will say it is very sweet. Actually, sweetness is not there in the food because I've already cooked the spicy one. So there is the hallucination of sweetness. So we can say this taste which is not present, then too the patient is feeling, that is known as gustatory hallucination. Next is olfactory hallucination. Olfactory hallucination, as I have already told you, any kind of smell which is not present in the society or which is not present in the surrounding, then too the person is feeling that smell. So that is known as olfactory hallucinations. Okay, next we come to disorders of affect. So in disorders of affect, these are basically directly related with our mood. The symptoms that altered in our mood, that are the disorders of affect. So first is apathy. I have already told you apathy, when the person is not able to feel the problem of others. In emotional blunting, when the person is not able to express his or her emotions. In anhedonia, when the person is not able to feel the pleasure. And in emotional shallowness, when the person thinks that someone is because of always think that because of other person she is getting jealousy or like that, that is known as emotional shallowness. Okay, next is disorders of motor behavior. Okay, schizophrenia also affects some alterations in our motor behavior also. For example, decrease or increase in psychomotor activities, like some kind of actions which has been repeated again and again, that is also a psychomotor behavior, increased psychomotor behavior. Next is mannerism. In mannerism, we keep doing some things again and again, we keep doing some actions, we keep saying some words again and again in a manner, that is known as mannerism. Next is grimacing. In grimacing, when the person makes some weird facial expressions, that is known as grimacing. Stereotyping. Stereotyping is related with some particular and continued same thoughts again and again, that is known as stereotyping. And decreased self-care. In case of schizophrenia, the patient is not able to care for her or himself, means his daily living get altered. Poor grooming, directly related. If the person is not able to do her self-care or his self-care, so he will not able to groom himself or herself properly. Okay, next is, this is just for the convenience actually, it is not given in any book. I have just added this PPT so that you can learn all the symptoms of schizophrenia from A to Z. So in this in ABC symptoms, I have included all the symptoms that are coming under A to Z. So it will be easy for you to learn all the symptoms of schizophrenia. So well, starting from A, actually I have already told you about maximum all the symptoms. This is just for the learning purpose, so that it make your learning easy. In A, this is autistic thinking, ambivalence and anhedonia. I have already explained you about all the three terms. B is blunted affect, C is catatonic behavior and concreteness. Okay, catatonic behavior is what? When the person for a longer duration, when the person follow the same posture or follow the same body alignment, that is known as catatonic behavior. Delusional, delusions I have already explained you that, or all the false belief are known as delusions. E for echolalia, echopraxia, eccentric behavior and excitement. F for functioning in work is decreased, frank incoherence. Functioning has already been decreased, I have already told you in the previous slide. G for grimacing, grooming is poor, and giggling. Giggling, you all know, it is a kind of laugh only. The patient like he always like to laugh, so that is giggling. Next is hallucination and hostility. I have already explained you both of the terms. And then I for illogical thinking, impulsive behavior and irrational ideas. Irrational ideas means which idea that don't have any kind of logical response or the logical connection with the surrounding or with the event. That is irrational ideas. Next, from L, loosening of association, loss of ego boundaries and insight. In Freud's psychosexual development, we have already seen that the patients of schizophrenia develops lose ego boundaries and loosening of association. I have already told you that when there is no any connection in the statements the patient is talking about, so that is loosening of association. Next, M, mannerism, made impulses, feeling, volitions and acts. I have already told you. N for neologism and negativism. Neologism means when the person tries to form new words. Actually, those words don't have any meaning. Those words are just illogical. Then to the patient used to speak some kind of word which is actually not existing also. So that kind of word, that kind of activity of forming new words is known as neologism. O for oddities behavior means some kind of odd behavior that patient shows. P for perseveration, poverty of speech and ideation, I have already told you. I for rigidity means the patient when shows any kind of rigid personality, that is known as rigidity. Next, S somatic passivity, suspiciousness, stereotypes, suicidal ideas, social withdrawal, I have already told you. Next is T, thought block, insertion, broadcasting, withdrawal, thought echo. All the alterations that occurs in our thought, that someone has taken our thought or someone is inserting any kind of thought. So these kind of thought alterations are given in T. Next is V, V for verbigeration, vague hypochondrial features. Verbigeration, when the person is in habit of speaking some or saying some phrases or words again and again, that is verbigeration. W for waxy flexibility, wandering tendencies. Waxy flexibility means when the person when the person adjusted in any other situation. If person is saying something, then he moves to the other topic, he started saying that. So the individual has the tendency to adjust in any kind of communication. So that is waxy flexibility. And wandering tendency means the person is not able to stand at one point, the person is not able to adjust himself at the point, he or she keeps wandering here and there. So that is known as wandering tendencies. Okay, next we will see the clinical types of schizophrenia. Actually, these are the types of schizophrenia, and in these types also all the previous symptoms that we have been studied, all these symptoms will come under this clinical types. So we'll start with the paranoid schizophrenia, and yes, one more thing, these types of schizophrenia you will see in ICD-10 classification also. So please do follow that ICD-10 classification for schizophrenia. Okay, so starting with the paranoid schizophrenia. Okay, so types are paranoid, hebephrenic, catatonic, residual, undifferentiated, simple and post-schizophrenic disorders. We will study them one by one. Starting with paranoid schizophrenia. Paranoid schizophrenia, before starting this disease, I would like to tell you something about paranoid schizophrenia. Actually, paranoid schizophrenia is the most commonly occurring schizophrenia in the society. Like if 10% of cases are there of schizophrenia, so in that 10%, 8% will be of paranoid only. So paranoid schizophrenia is the commonly occurring schizophrenia in the society, or you can say in the world. Okay, individual is delusional. In paranoid schizophrenia, there is the symptom of delusion will be present inside the individual. Then at present is the most common type of schizophrenia, I have already told you. Mainly characterized by the following features. So okay, now paranoid schizophrenia is characterized by some of the features, or we can say some of the delusions. So what are all these delusions? We will study one by one. The first one is delusion of persecution. In delusion of persecution, the individual thinks that he has been spied by someone, or he has been poisoned by someone, like someone is always trying to put some poison in his or food, like someone is always trying to kill him, someone is always trying to spy him. So these kind of thoughts come inside the mind of the patient. So that delusion is known as delusion of persecution. Next is delusion of reference. In delusion of reference, individual have false belief that others are thinking about him. Okay, so in this kind of delusion, the patient thinks that always he or she thinks that someone is thinking about him, or if 10 people are standing in front of the patient, all those 10 patient are thinking about that particular individual only. So this kind of delusion is known as delusion of reference. Then delusion of jealousy. In delusion of jealousy, the person thinks that his life partner is sexually trying to trait him or sexually trying to cheat him. That is known as delusion of jealousy. Next is delusion of grandiosity. Okay, in paranoid schizophrenia, this delusion of grandiosity mainly we can see in the patient. In delusion of grandiosity, the patient thinks that he or she is the superior person in the world. There is no one who can beat him, there is no one in the competition of that particular individual. So that is known as delusion of grandiosity. Some patients think that they are even greater than God also. Some patients think that they are greater among all the leaders. So these kind of thoughts come in delusion of grandiosity. Next is hallucinatory voices. In hallucinatory voices, I have already told you, in running form or in commentary form, they can hear some hallucinatory voices. Okay, next is hebephrenic schizophrenia. In hebephrenic schizophrenia, the early and insidious onset and is often associated with poor premorbid personality. The essential features include thought disorders, incoherence, severe loosening of association, extreme social impairment, delusions, and hallucinations. In hebephrenic schizophrenia, the person with premorbid personality can be seen, and it is basically featured with the impairment in thought process. When there is any kind of impairment in the thought process, like thought withdrawal or thought insertion, these kind of things that can be seen in the individual, it comes in the hebephrenic schizophrenia. And it also leads with the extreme social impairment, means the person is not completely able to adjust in the society, or the person is not able to do his or her tasks according to the norms and policies of society. Next is delusion and hallucination, as I have already explained you about delusion and hallucinations. Okay, next is other oddities. Behavior include senseless giggling, mirror gazing, grimacing, mannerism, etc. Okay, now the question arises, if you will ask me that how we will differentiate a person between the hebephrenic schizophrenia or the person is of paranoid schizophrenia, the difference of identifying any kind of hebephrenic schizophrenia is that when the person is acting any movement, or he is doing any actions repeatedly, or he is making extreme odd behaviors, or he is making any extreme odd facial expressions, with that you can identify the person is of hebephrenic schizophrenia. Next is the course is chronic and progressive, downhill without any significant remissions. The hebephrenic schizophrenia is basically, it continues for a longer duration, and one of the worst prognosis among all the subtypes. Actually, hebephrenic schizophrenia has the lowest prognostic features. Next. Okay, next is catatonic schizophrenia. Again, it is a one more type of schizophrenia. In catatonic schizophrenia, cata means disturb, and this disturb is our psychomotor behavior. So when the psychomotor behavior get disturbed or get alters, that leads to catatonic schizophrenia. It is mainly characterized by the marked disturbance of motor behavior. When our or the individual's motor behavior get disturbed in an inappropriate manner, so that the individual always doing or continuing maintaining the same posture for a long duration, that will leads to catatonic schizophrenia. And this catatonic schizophrenia may be in form of catatonic stupor, catatonic excitement, and there is somewhere between catatonic excitement and catatonic stupor. Okay, next, now we will see one by one what is catatonic stupor and what is catatonic excitement, so that you can also able to differentiate between both the terms. So first we will see about the catatonic stupor, excited catatonia or excitement, catatonic excitement. Both the terms are same actually. In excited catatonia, increase in psychomotor activity, the psychomotor activity will increase itself, and speech production, like the patient will say anything like jaldi jaldi, very fast, the patient quickly speaks so many words which are illogical also, and the speech productivity is very fast. So in excited catatonia we can see these symptoms. Then loosening of association, frank incoherence. Okay, if the person is speaking very fastly, very quickly, so in that the person forgets that what he or she is saying, so sometimes loosening of association can also be seen. Sometimes it is accompanied by hypothermia, rigidity and dehydration. And if we talk about some clinical symptoms, so the person may get hypothermia also, person may get dehydration also, and rigidity. Why this? Because the person is speaking very quickly, so in that condition developing dehydration is very common. Next we will see the clinical features of retarded catatonia, or we can say catatonic stupor. In that mutism can be seen. Mutism means when the person is not able to, the speech productivity, the person is not able to express the speech productivity, that is known as mutism. Then rigidity, in rigidity the person express a firm personality, that is known as rigidity. Or we can use this rigidity in action also. When the person is maintaining any rigid posture for a long time also, then also we can say the symptom is of rigidity. Next, negativism, the person always thinks about the negative thoughts. Posturing, the person maintains a common posture for a very long time. So this is the, actually by this feature only you can identify the person is suffering from catatonic schizophrenia. Next is stupor. Stupor means that thoughts which may like some catatonic thoughts that may come under the that may come inside the schizophrenic patients. Echolalia, I have already explained you about echolalia and echopraxia. Vexiflexibility I have also explained you. Ambitendency already done, and automatic disobedience. Automatic disobedience, what it is actually, when the person is ready to obey any kind of command, whether it is related with him or whether it is of the interest of him, irrelevant of all these things, the person is directly obey the command, so that is known as automatic obedience. Next. Okay, next is residual schizophrenia. In residual schizophrenia, actually, if there is any kind of episode of schizophrenia has occurred priorly or previously, if the person was suffering from schizophrenia, then after some time the symptoms are developing again due to any external stimuli or due to any trigger of external stimuli. In that condition, the symptoms that may appear, it is known as residual schizophrenia. We already know the meaning of residual, right, which is something the precipitate, or which is something left behind. So in cases of any triggering of external stimuli, the symptoms may expose. So this schizophrenia is known as residual schizophrenia. In residual schizophrenia, the symptoms are emotional blunting, eccentric behavior, illogical thinking, social withdrawal and loosening of association. Okay, next is undifferentiated schizophrenia. Undifferentiated schizophrenia, in this may be one type of schizophrenia or maybe two types of schizophrenia. Schizophrenic symptoms can be seen in one individual only. So in that condition, the phenomena will be termed as undifferentiated schizophrenia. Next is simple schizophrenia. So simple schizophrenia is basically characterized by early and insidious onset, progressive course, characteristic negative symptom. If you see any kind of negative symptoms in that person, and the person is not very severe, so that is termed as simple schizophrenia. Wandering tendencies can be seen, self-absorbed idleness, aimless activity, and prognosis is very poor. So these are the things you can see in simple schizophrenia. Okay, next is post-schizophrenic depression. Post-schizophrenic depression means when the person has been suffered from schizophrenia already, and after a duration of time, after an interval of time, when the person again developed the depression regarding that schizophrenic symptoms, so that is known as post-schizophrenic depression. Depressive features develop in the presence of residual or active features of schizophrenia and are associated with the increased risk of suicide. And also in this kind of condition, the risk of suicide also increases because the patient is already suffering from depression. Depression because the person is already developing any kind of schizophrenia, any type of schizophrenia. Because of that, he is developing some depressions also, and due to that depression, the risk of suicide also increases in post-schizophrenic depression. Okay, next we will study course and prognosis. So in this course and prognosis, the classic course is of the exacerbation and remissions. It described as the most crippling and devastating of all illnesses. Actually, the cure of schizophrenia is cure is there, but the prognosis is very poor. Means once a person with schizophrenia has admitted in the hospital, it may take more than 5 years, or it may take up to 6 years also, it may take up to 10 years also. So the progress of schizophrenic patients are very poor. If you will like in normal hospitals, in normal disorders, the patient will come inside the hospital, he or she will get treatment, and he or she will be discharged within a week or more than you can take it as a 2 weeks, but it will not be more than that. But in schizophrenic in conditions, the patient may take up to 5 years or may take up to 6 years, or it may go up beyond 10 years also. So as I have already told you, that prognosis is very poor in schizophrenia. Next. Okay, good prognostic factors. Now we will study about the good prognostic factors and bad prognostic factors. In good prognostic factors, if the schizophrenia is abrupt or acute onset, like the schizophrenia is for a shorter time, that it can be improved easily. And the later onset, presence of precipitating factors, if precipitating factors are present inside the individual, then we can identify and we can treat the patient early. Next, good premorbid personality, paranoid and catatonic subtypes, short duration, less than 6 months. If the duration of schizophrenia is less than 6 months, then it can be cured easily or it can be treated early. Next is predominance of positive symptoms. If the positive symptoms are dominating rather than negative symptoms, that also it is the prognosis become easy or early. Then family history of mood disorders, good social support, female sex. In females we can see the prognosis is better than males. And married, if the person is married, then too the prognostic factor can be positive. And outpatient treatment, the person who is taking treatment means they are taking treatment in their homes also as well, and they are not admitting in the hospital, so that can also be a good prognostic factor. Next we will see the poor prognostic factors. So in poor prognostic factors, insidious onset, younger onset, absence of precipitating factors, poor premorbid personality, just the opposite of positive prognostic factors, we will see negative prognostic factors. It is just the opposite and nothing else. Okay, simple undifferentiated subtypes, long duration if it is more than 2 years, and family history, poor social support, male sex, single, divorced or widowed, or institutionalization. Okay, so these are the poor prognostic factors of schizophrenia. Next is diagnostic evaluation, the very important part, that how we can diagnose the schizophrenia. So for diagnosing schizophrenia, the first we will follow the history collection. We will take the history collection of that particular patient. Then we will do some physical examinations. After physical examination, we will go with the mental status examination and neurological examination. When the mental status examination will be done, we will get some ideas that there is alteration in thought or there is alteration in speech. Like that we will get an idea. And then after that we can go for CT and MRI also. Basically in CT and MRI it has been seen that ventricles and sulci get enlarged and atrophy of cerebrum can be seen in brain. Next. Okay, now we will see the treatment modalities. Like for schizophrenia, what are all the treatments that can be taken for its cure? So we can go with some drugs like chlorpromazine, flufenazine, haloperidol, trifluoroperazine. So these are the drugs that you can go for the treatment of schizophrenia. Next. Okay, so these are all the drugs that are enlisted, and the doses and the frequency is also enlisted. So if the patient is if the patient is getting schizophrenia with these type of, and basically these are the conventional antipsychotic drugs. Okay, I forgot to tell you one thing, that there are two types of antipsychotic drugs. One is atypical and the other is conventional. Actually atypical antipsychotic drugs were used in prior times, but there are so many adverse effects of atypical drugs, so they are not in usage right now. We are using only conventional antipsychotic drugs. So this is the list of conventional antipsychotic drugs. Next. Okay, next treatment that is commonly used for the schizophrenic patient is ECT, electroconvulsive therapy. In ECT, the indications include, like when we can do ECT, if the patient is of catatonic stupor, means in catatonic schizophrenia we can do ECT, because the patient is continuing maintaining the same kind of posture for a longer duration. So in that condition we can use ECT. Then uncontrolled catatonic excitement, both the conditions are related with catatonic schizophrenia only. Severe side effects with drugs, if there is any kind of, we are giving any antipsychotic drug which has any adverse effect, so in place of that we can give ECT. And this ECT is basically used, 8 to 12 ECTs are needed for a schizophrenic patient. Okay, next is psychological therapy. So as it is a psychotic disorder, so psychological therapy are very needed so that we can give the patient. Just so basically the psychological therapies, these are given to the patient so that they can bring some alterations or good effects in their behavior and thought process. So in these psychological therapy, first is group therapy. In group therapy, we indulge patient in a group so that they can perform some tasks, they can perform some activities, and this they learn the leadership, they learn the group teamwork. Like that, for we indulge the patients in group therapy. Then behavior therapy. In behavior therapy, by giving some incentives or by giving some awards, by giving some bribes, we can make the alteration in patient's behavior. We can make the patient do what the right behavior is to be in the patient. Next, social skill training. In social skill training, these psychologists provide various kind of training so that they can build up their social skills. They can interact with they can interact in the society. They can initiate a good communication skills. And the last is family therapy. In family therapy, we educate the family so that they can take proper care of the schizophrenic patients. Next, please. Okay, next is psychosocial rehabilitation. In psychosocial rehabilitation, we keep the patient in rehab center till then he get recovered to his previous life, or we can say when the person is recovered to the normal life. So till then we will keep the patient in rehab centers. In rehab centers, they give some vocational guidance to the patient so that they can improve their behavior, they can improve their activities or thought process. Next is nursing assessment. Now we are coming to nursing management. In nursing assessment, in nursing management, I will tell you about the assessment and I will tell you about the diagnosis. So I am going to explain all the assessments, and the diagnosis are enlisted in my slides. You can prefer further. So if you are talking about assessment, first you have to observe behavior patterns and posturing appearance in the schizophrenic patient. Next, you have to identify if there is any kind of disturbances, thought disturbances are present inside the patient. Next is ask the patient about feelings. If there is any kind of alteration in the patient feeling, then also you can judge that symptoms. Next, you have to note the affect and emotional tone of the patient. If there is any difference in the emotions, or if there is any difference in the tone of the patient, you can assess that also. Next, you have to assess the speech pattern also, whether the patient is speaking very fluently or the patient is speaking slowly. So you have to assess all these symptoms in the patient. Next, you will assess for the theme and content of delusional thinking. If the patient is having any kind of delusion, so which kind of delusion is that, you have to assess. Next, you have to assess the ability of person to perform self-care, whether the person is able to carry out a self-care or not, that also you will assess. Next is determine any suicidal intent or recent attempts that have been made. Next, you can ask to the relatives, or you can make some IPR with the patient so that you get to know that whether the patient has tried to commit any suicide or any kind of event priorly. So these are the assessment that you can do in the schizophrenic patients. Okay, so these are all the nursing diagnoses that you can make for the care plan of schizophrenia. It is going to be very helpful for the students of BSc and GNM. If you are going to your psychiatric postings also, these diagnoses are going to be very helpful for you. So follow all these diagnoses. These are listed in my slides. You can prefer all these diagnoses. I am not going to read them, but you can prefer one by one. Next slide please. So this is risk for inflicted, disturbed sensory perception, then thought process alteration. All these slides are given, all these diagnoses are given in this slide. So you can prefer. Okay, thank you. So this was all about my content. Now I would like to say, still you have not followed our channel, then please do follow and subscribe, because this rjcsk.edu, it is going to be very helpful for you. It brings all the live sessions for you so that it aids in your learning. So if you want to get some aid in your learning, then please do follow and subscribe. Thank you.